Hey babies, welcome back. I'm your girl, Nurse Reese, and this is Nursing in the City. So for this episode, we're going to talk about fluid management and the fluid management flow sheet. So what I want to do is I want to briefly go over this flow sheet and kind of break it down so that it's easy to understand. All right, so let's begin. So when you first see this flow sheet, it looks just like this. And a lot of people are intimidated because they don't know what to do. There seems as though there are so many moving parts to this. But what you have to do in order to be successful is to understand this sheet. Once you understand this sheet, then you will be able to know which item goes where. And that is the goal, okay? All right. So, in order to kind of like understand this, you would need your PCS assignment sheet because that PCS assignment sheet is going to tell you what you are assigned. And for fluid management, you only want to do what you are assigned. Now, if you start at the top, you have intake, then you have output. Underneath intake, you have enteral, then you have the fluid type, the amount, and the totals. Then on the other side, you have parenteral. Then you have the parenteral type, the amount, the totals. And then on the output, you have the type, the amount, and the totals. So in order to understand this, you have to understand what enteral is. You have to understand what parenteral is. So enteral is anything that goes into the stomach. Parenteral is like IVs, okay? So if you have water, if you're drinking water, if it's like a G-tube feeding, soup, anything like that, that would fall here under the enteral type. Now, if you have something like 0.9% sodium chloride, lactated ringers, things like that, that would be parenteral, right? If you have to give a medication, an IV medication to the patient, you would put that here, all right? So when you first walk into the patient's room, if you're assigned fluid management and the person has an IV, and let's just say their IV is running at 50 milliliters per hour, the solution is 0.9% sodium chloride, and it's via an infusion control device. You would document that information here because it's an IV, so it will be parenteral fluid. So you would document it here. So now what I want to do is I want to pause quickly, and then I want to move to a different sheet. Now this sheet breaks down the other sheet, okay? So like I said, we're going to take a quick pause. Now, this is color-coded, and it may not make sense, but if you bear with me, I'll bring it all together. So if you're assigned intake and output, again, that information would go here, right? So that's the pink. So down in my, so I have a color code. Green is things that are to be done at the beginning during your first 20 minutes. So basically, things that need to be documented within your first 20 minutes are highlighted in green. Yellow is caution. You should chart at the time that you do it, right? And then the pink is kind of like a red. It's stop and add your totals at the end. Now, orange is what the CE fills out. And then underneath, as you see here, it says stop. You're going to add it, fill it out, your totals at the end. Okay? All right. So one of the things that helps with fluid management is to know what goes where. So I just told you that if you're assigned intake and output, at the end you're going to have to add your totals. So that's why it's in red. This is something that you have to do at the end. Okay? So once your patient finishes drinking 8 ounces of water, you're going to write 240 milliliters that they drank of that water, right? Okay. Let's just go back to breaking down the form. So here's parenteral fluids. We're going to stick with parenteral fluids for just a moment. If you are assigned an IV, okay, you're assigned fluid management, intake and output, and let's say you have to verify the rate of the fluid. So in your first 20 minutes, you're going to focus on these 4 boxes, okay? These first 4 boxes. You're going to focus on the current solution. You're going to focus on whether it's an infusion control device, which is basically a pump, or if it's infusing via gravity. So that means you would have to calculate the drops or count the drops. And then you want to focus on the condition of the IV site, okay? So what you're looking for at the IV site is redness, swelling. You're looking for whether or not it's intact, and you're looking for drainage, okay? So that's that with parenteral fluids. These 4 things are what you would fill out within the first 20 minutes. Now I say 4, however, these 2, it's going to be either or. Either it's an infusion control device or it's a pump, okay? And you're going to have to count the drops. You would have to count the drops in order to verify it. So if it's 25 drops per minute, when you get in the room, you're going to have to count those drops, okay? And if it's a pump, all you have to do is look at your PCS assignment sheet, and you're comparing the PCS assignment sheet to what's on that pump. Now, a lot of people, they write this information on their grids, right? They write the information on the grids. You can write the information on the grid. However, you cannot verify that information from the grid. You have to use your PCS assignment sheet. It is like your medication administration record, okay? So that's how you do that. Now, during your time with the patient, if your IV was discontinued, then you would document that. And if the IV was discontinued, then you need to document the condition of the IV site. All right. Now, if you were assigned to give a new medication, like say the patient was, they had normal saline infusing and you had to give Cipro, let's just say. So now it's a new medication. So now you have to write what the new medication is, and then you would have to assess the IV site again, okay? Now, when it comes to the totals, if you had a new medication, you would have to put that up here. So the patient is already, they have the 0.9% sodium chloride, and now they have Cipro, whatever it is, that will go up here, okay? And then you would total it up at the end. All right, so that's that. Now, if you were assigned drainage, then in the beginning, during your planning phase, the CE is going to give you, and the same thing for parenteral, excuse me. The CE is going to write down how much is in the bag. They're going to write the time, and they're going to initial it. So at the end of your implementation, you have to write how much is in the bag, the time, and your initials. The same thing for fluid. So when you do that, again, you would put your totals up here for how much, either if it was a parenteral fluid, how much intake the patient had, and if it was drainage, how much output the patient had, okay? So at the end, let's go back to drainage. So for drainage, you would have to put in the first 20 minutes the type of device, okay? You would have to put the condition of the site. You would have to put whether the tubing was secured or not. Is it patent? Is it open? Is it flowing? Does it have a suction type? It may or it may not. If it does have a suction type, what is the amount? And then what are the baseline characteristics of the drainage? Okay, so at the end, you're going to go ahead and document the drainage type again, okay? And if the drain was removed during your PCS, you would document that, okay? So that's how that works. Now, for enteral feeding, if the patient has a continuous feeding, then in the first 20 minutes, you would check that. And then you're going to write down and verify the type of formula. Was it Jevity? What's the flow of the feeding? Okay, so you put that there and that there. Okay, so the CE, if it's a continuous, in the beginning, he or she will document how much was in the bag, the time, and the initials. At the end, you are to document how much is in the bag, the time, and the initials. All right. And then once you find the difference, you would log it here. If it was Jevity, whatever they were receiving, you write the amount. There was the intake, and you would total it there. Now, if it was a bolus, you're still going to put the flow and the formula and the flow rate. Okay? But it's basically done when you do it. And if you have to do the gastric residual amount or the gastric residual amount that was reinstilled, then you would do it, and then you would document it like immediately after. So basically everything that is in green, if you are assigned, you have to show the CE within the first 20 minutes. Okay? Now, for documentation, one of the mnemonics that we use to help you remember how to document for fluid management it's called HELP. The H is for hydration. So you're going to focus on the mucous membranes. Let's see what I can do here. You're going to focus on the mucous membranes, the skin turgor, or you would do the mucous membranes and the anterior fontanelle if it was like a child, less than 1 year old, okay? And for the edge, so basically for the hydration, you're going to focus on two areas. If it's an infant under 1, then you'd focus on the anterior fontanelle. So then you want to focus on the education provided. You have to provide education to management. So you can provide your education, and then you are going to write down the learner's response to your education, so their understanding. And then you want to document the patient's response to the fluid, the feed, the flush, or the drainage, okay? So you would ask the patient, how do you feel with the IVs running? They say, oh, they feel fine. So that's the patient's response. They feel fine. Okay? All right. So basically we did cover everything, and I'm running out of time, so I want to show you guys quickly what this sheet looks like when it's filled out. If you'd like a more in-depth breakdown of the fluid management flow sheet, feel free to visit nycclinicalworkshop.com. We offer one-on-one tutoring, mocks, and more. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'm looking forward to catching you guys in the next video.